You feel it, don't you? That pounding in your chest, the fire you keep trying to ignore, that's not fear. That's not doubt. That's your power. Waking up every day, life dares you. It dares you to rise when you've been crushed. It dares you to move when your body screams, stop. It dares you to believe when the world calls you crazy. And today you answer that dare. Today you stop running from the storm and you become the storm. Pain is not the enemy. It is the architect of strength. Every time you go through something that shakes you to your core, it is not there to destroy you. It is there to build you. Most people run from pain. They avoid it, numb it, or complain about it. But the truth is, the very thing you're trying to escape is the thing you need the most. Pain is the pressure that shapes who you are meant to become. Without it, there is no growth, no depth, no real power. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who learned how to turn their suffering into fuel. Think about it. Muscles don't grow without resistance. When you lift weights, you're literally tearing your muscles apart so they can rebuild stronger than before. Life works the same way. Those moments when you felt like you were breaking, those were the moments when you were being rebuilt, but only if you decide to use it. Pain alone doesn't change you. Your response to it does. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you unstoppable. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort makes you soft. Pain wakes you soft. It forces you to focus, to adapt, to fight harder than you ever thought you could. Every setback, every heartbreak, every failure you've been through has handed you two choices: quit or grow. And the moment you decide to grow, pain becomes your ally, not your adversary. Take this example. Imagine a runner training for a marathon. On the first day, they can barely finish 2 miles without gasping for air. Their legs ache, their lungs burn, and every part of them screams to stop. They could quit. Many do, but they keep going. Day after day, they embrace that discomfort. Weeks later, they notice something strange. The pain they hated has turned into power. Their legs are stronger. Their breathing is smoother. And the miles that once felt impossible now feel natural. The very suffering they despised became the reason they were able to cross the finish line. Your life is no different. When you go against the grain, the fishing, the fights, is either a weight that drags you down or a weight that builds you up, depending on how you carry it. So stop cursing the things that hurt you. Respect them. Let them carve out the strongest version of you. When you learn to see pain as fuel, you stop running from it and start running with it. That's when everything changes. Your mind is the battlefield where every victory and every defeat is decided long before you take a single step. Most people lose not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they let their own thoughts enslave them. That voice in your head that says you're not good enough, that whispers quit, isn't telling you the truth. It's testing you. The problem is, too many people treat that voice like a master instead of a challenge. If you don't take control of your mind, it will control you, and it will drag you exactly where you said you'd never go. The mind is powerful, but it's also lazy. It craves comfort, it seeks safety, and it will do everything it can to keep you from stepping into the unknown. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation feels good, but it fades. Discipline is what trains your mind to obey you instead of the other way around. When you learn to dominate your thoughts, you stop asking Do I feel like it? And start saying, this is what needs to be done. That shift changes everything because your body will follow wherever your mind leads. Think of it like training a wild animal. At first, your thoughts are untamed. They run everywhere. They fight against you. They resist every command. But if you show up every day and take authority over them, you begin to bend that chaos into focus. You create a mental environment where fear becomes data, doubt becomes fuel, and failure becomes feedback. You are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. Take the story of a boxer preparing for a championship fight. Physically, they're ready. They've done the workouts, mastered the techniques, and built their strength. But in the days leading up to the fight, the mind games begin. Doubts creep in. What if I lose? What if I'm not fast enough? What if they're stronger than me? That spiral of fear could destroy everything they've worked for. But instead of feeding those thoughts, they train their mind the same way they train their body. They visualize victory. They repeat affirmations until belief drowns out fear. They control their breathing, control their focus, and control the story they're telling themselves. By the time they step into the ring, their body isn't just fighting, their mind is leading the charge. That's what mental dominance looks like. It's not about pretending fear and doubt don't exist. It's about refusing to let them drive the car. Motivation is exciting, but it's also temporary. It's like a spark. It can light you up for a moment, but it burns out fast if you don't feed it. Consistency, on the other hand, is the real engine of transformation. It's not glamorous, and it's rarely exciting, but it's the one thing that separates the people who dream from the people who actually make those dreams real. Consistency is the killer instinct because it doesn't rely on how you feel. It relies on who you decide to be every single day. Most people wait for the right mood to take action. They want to feel inspired before they start. But the truth is, action creates inspiration, not the other way around. The ones who win aren't the ones who work hard when they're motivated. They're the ones who work hard even when they're bored, tired, or discouraged. They're the ones who work hard even when they're bored, tired, or discouraged. That daily grind, those small repeated actions are what create unstoppable momentum. You don't see results at first, and that's why most people quit. But if you keep showing up, consistency compounds like interest. It grows quietly and then all at once. Think about planting a seed. You water it day after day. But for a long time, nothing seems to happen. You might even start to wonder if you're wasting your time. You might think that yourself is too old and too young. But your life is infinite. You might even start to wonder if you're wasting your time. Then one day, a small green sprout pushes through the soil. That sprout doesn't show up because you poured a gallon of water on it one time. It shows up because you watered it a little every day without fail. Success works the same way. Consistency is the invisible work that makes the visible results possible. Here's an example. Picture an aspiring writer who dreams of publishing a novel. They decide to write 500 words every single day, no matter what. Then the publisher calls back and says, we want to publish your book, the novel that you've worked on that nobody's ever heard of. They publish it, they send it to a publisher, they pay for the publishing. They put your book out to the world. They publish it and they sell. No one will ever know. They publish it, they send it to the world. Some days, the words flow effortlessly. Other days, they hate everything they type, but they keep going. 500 words a day without skipping. After 6 months, they have over 90,000 words, a complete manuscript. Meanwhile, someone else with the same dream only writes when they feel inspired. They produce brilliant paragraphs occasionally, but after 6 months, they barely have a few chapters. The difference isn't talent, it's consistency. The first writer didn't wait for motivation. They created a habit that built momentum until finishing the book became inevitable. Consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about refusing to give up on the process. Some days you'll be fast, some days you'll be slow, and some days you'll barely crawl. But if you keep moving, you keep winning. Over time, the discipline you build becomes part of who you are. And that's when you stop chasing success and start becoming the kind of person who attracts it naturally. Fear is often misunderstood. Most people see it as a wall, something meant to keep them out. But fear is really a signal. It points directly to the places where growth lives. The things you're most afraid to do are usually the things that will change you the most. The things you're most afraid to do are usually the things that will change you the most. Fear is not the enemy. It's a weapon, but only if you learn how to wield it. When you run from fear, it grows stronger. When you face it, you shrink its power and claim it as your own. The body reacts to fear in the same way it reacts to excitement. Heart racing, adrenaline pumping, senses heightened. The only difference is the story you attach to those feelings. If you call it danger, you freeze. The problem is when you call it danger, you freeze. If you call it opportunity, you move. That's why the people who rise above the rest aren't the ones without fear. They're the ones who feel it fully and step forward anyway. Fear is proof that you're pushing into territory that matters. If it doesn't scare you a little, it's not big enough to change you. The key is to reframe it. Instead of thinking, I'm afraid, so I shouldn't do this, start thinking, I'm afraid, so I must do this. And then you start busting through the mindset of self-discipline, self-confidence, self-awareness, self-conscious. It's better to fight something than do something that's unproductive, that's dangerous, that's self-detriment. Every time you confront fear, you take a piece of its power and add it to your own. Avoid it and it controls you. Face it and you grow. Take the example of someone terrified of public speaking. Just the thought of standing in front of a crowd makes their stomach twist. They've avoided it for years, always passing on opportunities because the fear felt too big. Then one day, they decide to do something different. You see, you can't change the past to make it better, but you can formulate a plan to make it better. You can make the past mean something to you. You can give it meaning. You can change the past to make it better. This process is something they start small, speaking to a handful of colleagues. Their voice shakes, their palms sweat, and they stumble through their sentences, but they survive. The next time, it's a slightly larger group. Slowly, each experience teaches them something. The fear never really goes away, but it becomes manageable. Eventually, they're standing on a stage, speaking to hundreds, and what once felt like a nightmare has become their strength. And what once felt like a nightmare has become their strength. They didn't eliminate fear, they learned to use it. That's what stepping into fear does. It doesn't just change the situation. It changes who you are. Fear is a forge, and stepping into it is how you build resilience, confidence, and courage. When you start treating fear as a guide instead of a prison, you discover that everything you ever wanted, freedom, growth, success was always hiding behind the thing you were most afraid to face. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to hand you greatness. The life you dream about isn't owed to you. It has to be demanded, carved, and earned. That means setting a standard for yourself so high that even you feel uncomfortable chasing it, and then refusing to settle for anything less. Most people lower their standards to match their circumstances. They shrink their goals when things get hard. But the ones who truly rise are the ones who raise their standards and force their circumstances to catch up. Demanding more of yourself isn't about being harsh or unrealistic. It's about recognizing that your potential is bigger than your excuses. Every time you cut corners, you teach yourself to accept less. Every time you push further than you thought possible, you expand who you are. Progress starts when you stop asking, "What am I capable of?" and start declaring, "This is who I choose to become." It also means sacrifice. You can't demand more and stay the same. Something has to give. Your old habits, your old mindset, your old comfort zone. It's not supposed to be easy because greatness is designed to be earned by the few who are willing to pay for it with discipline, focus, and relentless action. Take the example of an athlete training for the Olympics. Everyone at that level is talented. Everyone works hard. But the ones who stand on the podium are the ones who demand more of themselves than anyone else ever could. They're up before sunrise, perfecting the smallest details of their craft while others sleep. They pass on distractions, parties, and short-term pleasures because they refuse to let anything dilute their vision. They aren't waiting for a coach to push them. They push themselves harder than any coach would dare. When the competition arrives, it's not just their physical ability that sets them apart. It's the fact that they built a mindset that refuses to settle for good enough. That's what demanding more of yourself looks like. It's not about obsessing over perfection. It's about chasing a version of yourself so powerful, so focused, that even you are surprised by what you're capable of. It's standing in front of the mirror and saying, "I will not stop until I become the person I promised myself I'd be." When you set that kind of standard, life will test you. It will push back. But if you stay committed, something incredible happens. Your actions begin to align with your vision, and you start to realize that greatness was never outside of you. It was always waiting for you to demand it. And I tell you, it starts inside. And I tell you, it starts inside. It's so important to have that game plan, to have that vision, to have that vision board, to have that purpose, to face the fear, to make the past your future, to make the past ever. This is Adrid line 5. This is where average dies and greatness is born. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't even need to feel ready. You need one thing, a decision. A decision that says, "I will not stop. I will not break. I will not bow." When your back hits the wall and your lungs are on fire, remember this. You ask for power, and power never comes cheap. You ask for power, and power never comes cheap. So stand up, lock in, and roar so loud that your excuses can't survive it. Because today, you don't just live, you take over. You take over.